At this moment, the others were not idle either. Xing Tian activated his Legion ability. As mentioned earlier, this supernatural power of his can be blessed on everyone to improve their combat effectiveness. With this blessing, the combat effectiveness of the remaining strongest mutants in Tianhai City raised to a higher level. Xiao Honglian and Waiting Hai activated their Flame Dragon Breath and Ice and Snow Blizzard abilities respectively, and attacked at the same time. The flames and blizzards swept in two directions, impacting the incoming rocks from those directions. Qi Guangming of the investigation team raised the black sniper rifle in his hand with a serious look. And as he aimed at Yuan Kongya in the air, he knew that in order to catch a thief, you must first catch the leader. It was useless to deal with the rocks alone. Only by solving Yuan Kongya can everything end. As long as Yuan Kongya falls, the boulder storm will naturally disappear. A stream of golden light shot out from the muzzle of his gun. Yuan Kongya's eyes were cold, and she didn't care about the bullet at all. But the next moment, her brows frowned slightly, because this bullet actually penetrated her telekinetic barrier. However, it stopped when it was less than a meter away from her. Qi Guangming frowned even deeper. She has too many types of abilities, so I can't deal with her at all. Zhang Yi saw the entire scene, so with a curious look, he asked what kind of bullet Qi Guangming used that could actually penetrate Yuan Kongya's telekinetic barrier. After all, he clearly remembered that Wu Di's countless floating cannons could not affect the telekinetic barrier at all. Qi Guangming glanced at him and said it was an origin bullet. They were specially designed and used to deal with mutant creatures. Indeed, mutated creatures also naturally include humans with superpowers. Hearing this, Zhang Yi couldn't help but inwardly sigh slightly. Jiangnan District is really Jiangnan District indeed. In less than half a year after the end of the world, even bullets specifically used to deal with mutants have been developed. But thinking about it carefully, this thing has no effect on me. Because strictly speaking, my dimensional gate was not a defensive ability, but a door to another dimension. Origin Bullet was probably used to attack mutants who rely on superpowers for defense, such as the strengthening system, the orc system, and this kind of mutants with telekinetic barriers. At this time, Bailey Chongqing's voice interrupted his thoughts. We can't let her control the rhythm like this. From now on, everyone should listen to my command. He stared at Yuan Kongya in the air, his eyes more focused than ever. Even if her current superpowers are powerful, this young girl still lacks combat experience. She would eventually reveal flaws. Bailey Chongqing quickly made a battle plan for everyone. He had discovered a weakness of Yuan Kongya. That is, she could not do two things at the same time. When Qi Guangming attacked her with the origin bullet, her telekinesis control ability was obviously reduced, and the speed of the rock storm slowed down. So, apart from Qi Guangming, who will use the origin bullet to contain her actions, the rest of you will continue to attack her with long-range skills. I will be responsible for the main attack. As for the ultimate move, Bailey Chongqing glanced at Zhang Yi next to him. From the beginning till now, Zhang Yi hadn't even made a single attack. But Bailey Chongqing knew that he had an ultimate move hidden, his divine power. Although the attack range was not very large, but in terms of power, Zhang Yi's divine power was definitely not inferior to the destructive power of Bian Junwu. We will fight for you to use your pupil technique to deal a fatal blow to Yuan Kongya. Bailey Chongqing even added with a serious expression. I will go over to entangle her, and if necessary, you can kill me along with her. Everyone present couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts when they heard this. It was obvious at this point that Bailey Chongqing was so determined to kill Yuan Kongya that he was willing to sacrifice himself as well. However, the other members of the investigation team seemed to be used to it when they heard this. They had already put life and death aside in order to carry out the mission. And it wasn't that they were not afraid of death, but they understood that sometimes sacrifice was necessary, otherwise, it will cause greater losses. They understood the bigger picture that if they couldn't kill Yuan Kongya, no one will leave alive. Zhang Yi couldn't help but smile and reply that he got it. Bailey Chongqing chose to bear the greatest pressure alone, because among the people present, no one can even approach his level in terms of close combat ability. Well, let's start, he shouted. Xiao Honglian and Waiting Hai quickly took action and launched a fierce attack on Yuan Kongya. Qi Guangming also raised his gun and fired another origin bullet. Yuan Kongya knew that the golden bullet should not be taken lightly, so she frowned slightly and raised her left hand to condense a huge wall in front of her. Although the origin bullet had special functions for mutants, it was still just a bullet in the end, and its physical attack ability was relatively ordinary. So the huge wall blocked it easily. Yuan Kongya then waved her other hand, and all the superpowers that attacked her were extinguished in the air like a flame being poured with water. But at this moment, Bailey Chongqing suddenly jumped high from the ground, disappearing from where he was initially like lightning, and holding his huge knight's lance with killing intent. he decisively attacked Yuan Kongya from the back. Yuan Kongya's eyes condensed. She did not look back, but she had already noticed Bailey Chongqing's attack. Silently moving like thunder, the lance stabbed Yuan Kongya's back with tremendous force. An invisible ripple swayed in the air, and the telekinetic barrier blocked her back. The huge knight's lance stabbed over and actually broke through half a meter from the barrier, stopping a few centimeters away from her back. Even though he held the knight's lance tightly with both hands, Bailey Chongqing couldn't continue to exert force in the air, so his charged attack failed to deal any significant damage. But it did, however, distract Yuan Kongya. And at this moment, Zhang Yi made a move. The moment when Yuan Kongya was distracted by everyone was the moment when he made his move. White light flashed in his pupils, and then aimed at Yuan Kongya in the air. This even covered Bailey Chongqing behind her. With a fight of this magnitude, life and death are determined in just a matter of seconds. The moment when Yuan Kongya was distracted allowed Zhang Yi to lock on her. The terrifying pressure distorted the space around her. And finally a look of shock appeared in Yuan Kongya's eyes. Zhang Yi actually has a pupil technique skill? Yuan Kongya silently thought in astonishment. Between her and Zhang Yi, a strange distortion appeared in the space. It was like a rag being twisted in opposite directions by two people. Well then, let's see whose pupil technique is more powerful, Bian Junwoo's or yours. At this moment, a dazzling golden light burst out from Yuan Kongya's eyes, covering the surrounding world between them. Silently, a bizarre sphere appeared in the space between the two people, and even the light was distorted. But after a moment, the dazzling light dissipated in the air. Everything returned to calm. Only the ground under the ball of light, like cheese scalded by a red-hot iron, had a huge and smooth spherical depression. Accompanied with a loud boom, a figure fell to the ground like a meteor, and Bailey Chongqing, who was wearing a white combat uniform, was thrown to the ground. This man of steel and iron actually spilled a trace of blood from his mouth at this time. Has the captain's annihilation been mastered by her so quickly? Bailey Chongqing said this with a solemn face looking at Yuan Kongya. He was very familiar with that power just now. It was Bian Junwoo's pupil technique, Nirvana. She even mastered Bian Junwoo's ability, Xiao Honglian said in astonishment. They have seen how strong Bian Junwoo was. That is a terrifying ability that can kill hundreds of thousands of zombies by one's own strength. Now that Yuan Kongya has obtained that ability, how can they fight? Bailey Chongqing stood up and said loudly, "No! She is not the captain. She just got the captain's special ability and doesn't know how to use it properly yet. We still have a chance to defeat her." He was very sure of this, because if it was the ability used by Bian Junwoo just now, he would not be alive to be able to speak, let alone stand up. The appearance of Zhang Yi's divine power made Yuan Kongya feel a sense of pressure, because that kind of power was enough to fight against her. Yuan Kongya's eyes were fixed on Zhang Yi at this moment, a bit taken aback with Zhang Yi's sudden appetite. Zhang Yi silently took out several meat buns and stuffed it into his mouth. His divine power consumed too much of his energy, so he had to replenish his superpowers in time. Fortunately, he was a space-based ability user, and fighting a war of attrition was his strong point. Suddenly, with a murderous intent, Yuan Kongya's eyes were full of rage. At first, she didn't take these people seriously. With her powerful strength, she thought she was close to the realm of God, and these weak mortals could not do anything to her. However, Zhang Yi's divine power made her feel a little scared. Perhaps these mortals really had the ability to hurt her, and this fear made her angry. So angry that she decided not to play anymore, but to kill everyone in front of her as soon as possible. Storms, bigger than the size of the destroyed church, spun around her. The terrifying whirlwind carried countless gravel, ice and snow, and even everything around it, turning into a huge tornado. Then this huge tornado hit everyone hard. The tornado attracted everything around it, and everyone's feet began to become unstable. They hurriedly retreated to avoid being swept into the middle of the tornado. Once they entered it, it would be a certain death. But when they thought they had run far away, the raging snowstorm rolled over the earth again. Wind, snow, gravel, all kinds of terrible abilities were displayed by Yuan Kongya. For a time, no one could resist. Their abilities were certainly very powerful, but the level was completely different. When a mutant reaches level 5, the Epsilon level, which is the strongest level of mutants in the world, he or she is no longer in the same dimension as the lower mutants. With only just 2 legendary Epsilon mutants in the entire country, including the recently deceased Bian Junwoo, Yuan Kongya was now the 3rd, and upon facing her terrifyingly powerful strength, everyone was struggling to resist. Zhang Yi's dimensional gate could not protect everyone. This bug defense method that can defend against all physical attacks can keep him safe. His team was currently safe as well. But how can they fight this? Yuan Kongye has too many abilities, so it was impossible to even find her weaknesses, if she has any, that is. Boss, let's run away, Chunlei suggested. Escape? Where to? Do you think we can still escape now? Zhang Yi stared coldly at Yuan Kongye in the center of the storm. If he was alone, there would be no problem escaping. But it would not work with them. After all, he could react to the speed of space travel, but they couldn't. Any delay in the middle would delay time, and then Yuan Kongye would quickly catch up. Now there is only one battle. If you win, Tianhai City will be peaceful from now on. If you lose, well, we can think about losing later. Zhang Yi stared at Yuan Kongye in the air, with the power in his eyes ready to go. Yuan Kongye felt this power, and her figure suddenly became illusory, as if countless afterimages overlapped, making it impossible for Zhang Yi to lock her position. However, the biggest advantage of Zhang Yi and everyone was their number. Bailey Chongqing said that Yuan Kongye's combat experience was not rich enough, and he was right. Even though she has enough power, it is still flawed. Now with Zhang Yi's divine power as a restraint, Yuan Kongye can't concentrate on dealing with everyone at the same time. So this gave them the opportunity to attack from the side. Xing Tian activated his supernatural power to the maximum extent and blessed everyone. Qi Guangming raised the sniper rifle in his hand, aiming the origin bullet at Yuan Kongye's head, which also brought her a little pressure. Although she is not afraid of Qi Guangming, if she accidentally gets shot, it is not something she is willing to accept. Bailey Chongqing also held his knight's lance and patiently looked for an opportunity to attack with one shot. Although his defense was very amazing, if he is attacked by another pupil technique at close range, his defense would definitely be broken, along with his life. What annoying bugs. Do you really think you can resist me? What a joke. I'm a god. Yuan Kongye's voice echoed coldly in the sky. As she waved her hands, an even more terrifying storm swept in all directions, as if to kill everyone with one blow. The main targets of the attack were Zhang Yi and Qi Guangming. Zhang Yi sensed this and immediately opened his double doors, taking his entire team away from the spot. The moment they left, the place where they previously were was smashed by countless rubble from all directions. However, Qi Guangming did not have the convenient ability to escape like Zhang Yi, and Yuan Kongye's power covered every corner around him. As long as he looked up, he could see a giant whirlwind hundreds of meters high trapping him in the center. There was no escape. Yuan Kongye was like a creature from a higher dimension, playing with his life at will. Unexpectedly, just when he was at a loss, a familiar roar came from his side, and a huge and familiar knight's lance tore a hole in the storm. "Captain, why are you here?" he questioned with an evident surprise. Although grateful, Qi Guangming thought at that moment that he was truly done for, and never expected his captain to appear suddenly at a critical moment. Bailey Chongqing, wearing a white combat uniform, rushed in, then clamped Qi Guangming under his arm, and rushed out through the storm. Oh, such a strong defense. Yuan Kongye saw this scene. She recognized that it was the deputy captain of the investigation team, a top-level enhancement ability user. But how long can you resist my attack? Within a radius of 3 kilometers, rocks flew through the air, and everything in the world became the object of her control. Her energy seemed endless, and she continued to attack everyone. Suddenly, she felt Zhang Yi's attack again from behind. Yuan Kongye's attention has always been on Zhang Yi. Seeing this, she did not hesitate to use Nirvana to fight against it. The sudden clash of the two forces created a massive explosion in the air. At this point in the battle, the biggest threat to her was this person who has the ability to kill with one blow. These two forces burst out with strange light in the air and then annihilated. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and said to Liang Yu and the others at an extremely fast speed, "You guys need to leave here quickly. The current battle is no longer something you can intervene in. Indeed, the human wave tactics have no effect on the mutants who are beyond the general meaning. Now, on the entire battlefield, there are probably only a few of them who can have a certain impact on Yuan Kongye. Anyone else who stayed there were just living targets for Yuan Kongye and add burden to their teammates. Therefore, Zhang Yi asked Flower to take everyone else away. Even for Liang Yu, her melee ability would hardly play a big role at this time. Liang Yu wanted to argue, but then she saw Zhang Yi's serious and scary face. Time was running out, and Zhang Yi didn't want to waste words with her. She had to obey his orders. Liang Yu took a moment to control her emotions and think rationally about the situation. It was obvious at this point, and she figured out that her ability would not be of much help to Zhang Yi, and would even affect Zhang Yi's ability to use his space shuttle. "Okay, let's go." She reluctantly agreed and jumped on Flower's back, joining Uncle Yu and Chunlei. Before departure, Uncle Yu told Zhang Yi to be careful. The three people, together with Flower looked at Zhang Yi worriedly, and then fled away. In the center of the battlefield, Xiao Honglian, Wei Dinghai, Xing Tian, and some members of the investigation team became the main force. After Yuan Kongya mastered telekinesis, she could float in the sky and look down at everyone to fight. Therefore, all the enhancement-type ability users except Bailey Chongqing chose to retreat to the back to provide assistance and protection to the main attackers in front. And the support-type mutants, such as Meng Xiu and Yi Jikong, left the battlefield without hesitation. Wu Di's eyes were filled with hatred. He was surrounded by floating cannons, and the dazzling light balls emitted a terrifying impact force, shooting at Yuan Kongya like a rainstorm. At the same time, Xing Tian used his own abilities to bless everyone, refueling them to keep fighting. Wei Dinghai's Ice and Snowstorm and Xiao Honglian's Flame Dragon were all trying their best to consume Yuan Kongya and distract her attention. Without question, everyone knew that the only way to defeat Yuan Kongya at this point was Zhang Yi, and his divine power was the key, because only his attack can pose a threat to Yuan Kongya. So everyone, even Wu Di, tried their best to create an output environment for Zhang Yi. Yuan Kongya felt irritated in the face of the attacks of more than a dozen mutants. These attacks were nothing to her, but she must always be on guard against Zhang Yi, who has the ability to kill with one blow. Once she has any defensive air raids, Zhang Yi's divine power will hit her, which may cause her serious injuries. It's obvious that the ending is certain to be your deaths. So why are you still struggling? Forget it. I don't have the patience to play with you anymore. Yuan Kongya's cold voice came from high in the sky. She didn't like the appearance of something that was out of her control. Let me purify you completely with one blow. Yuan Kongya continued, and in the pupils of her eyes, a sharp golden light quickly burst out. She was hanging high in the sky, like a sun, and the holy light swept in all directions. The annihilation power of Nirvana was stimulated to the maximum by her. The power that was enough to destroy everything reminded everyone of the famous scene where Bian Junwu killed hundreds of thousands of zombies alone. Bailey Chongqing and the others turned pale, because they felt that the power of this attack was already at the level of Bian Junwu. Run away. Everyone, run away as far as possible. Bailey Chongqing held Qi Guangming with one hand and Wu Di with the other, and his figure turned into a residual shadow as he ran to Zhang Yi's side. Xiao Honglian and the others also made the same move. They knew that now they could only rely on Zhang Yi's dimension gate to try to resist this power. Zhang Yi raised his right hand and opened the dimensional door to the maximum, and a huge dimensional door like the South Heaven Gate opened in front of him. However, several soldiers of the various major forces, who were not fast enough, were attacked by the burst of golden light and disintegrated into nothing.